Aqueous Ethanol Float Installation.
Today we would like to talk about installing our Aqueous Ethanol Float Kit, which we shorten to an AEF. On a standard probe, it's a pretty easy install, but we would like to make sure that everyone knows the procedure. If you have a probe, if you're doing a retrofit, then you have a standard float kit installed. We have our product float installed, as you notice, with the magnet down, and a standard water float installed, and we have a keeper on the end that prevents the floats from falling off into the tank. The first thing we need to do is remove this C-clip that holds the end cap in place. We generally do that with just a standard flat blade screwdriver. Take some care that it doesn't fly up and fly away or hit you in the face or the eye. And it's just a standard C-clip, like we've all seen plenty of. This end cap would come off. The water float comes off because it will not be used with the AEF. And we get a new product float with the kit as well, so we just as well install it. Then when we get our kit, it will come with instructions for install and the floats themselves. The product float is the same as our standard product float. And once again, you would install it with the magnet oriented toward the bottom of the probe. However, we do have a different end cap, and this end cap has to be used with the AEF or it will not function properly. And we have a new C-clip. And then, of course, we have our standard installation kit with 2 wire ties, 3 wire nuts, and a seal pack, which must be installed on the included cable. The sensor itself for the AEF, Aqueous Ethanol Float, looks just like this. You can see it has some movement. But this also mounts rigidly to the probe shaft, and we will see that momentarily. We have 2 set screws, 1 for each side. But I want to point out specifically the sticker that comes with every AEF. Those numbers, the values A and values B, will have to be programmed into the Integra or Nano tank gauge in order for the sensor to work properly. So you want to hang on to this. If by some chance you did lose that, they are printed. We may not be able to see them, but those numbers are printed on the float itself, and they're stamped in, and they seem to hold up pretty well. I have pulled these things out after being installed for several months and could still read those numbers. So we have our product float installed as we normally would. Then we take the AEF. Let's take our set screws out. It's just a standard number 2 Phillips. We can just take them completely out and just lay them aside. And we're going to just slide the float, grasp it up here when you're sliding it on instead of pushing on the float itself. Kind of wiggle it a little bit, and then it'll slide on up. Then we install this end cap, and once again, this is the only end cap that will work with the AEF. So we install it. It comes with a C-clip as well. Lock the C-clip down. I generally twist it a little bit just to make sure that it's seated. See that one popped out? So we want to make sure that it is completely seated. You see how that can spin and the clip doesn't come off, because the AEF itself is going to slide down past that, and it has to be able to freely move there. So once all of that is installed, we want to stand our probe up and just let the AEF fall completely down until everything bottoms out. And you can see we have a gap here. That's the gap that we were watching to monitor for the presence of any aqueous ethanol fluid. And then of course we put our set screws in. And we don't really want to tighten these too much. We just want to snug them up. All they're designed to do is to prevent the float kit itself from riding up and down on the probe shaft. If you put them too tight, we could actually cause a deflection in the probe shaft, and the probe would stop working at that point. Just snug them down. Make sure everything moves. Make sure the AEF doesn't move. And that's all there is to it. And we have now installed an AEF kit on our standard 924B probe. And we will now detect the beginning of a separation in ethanol and product because of water intrusion in the tank.